Let's get to the bottom of that. Dan Orlovsky, I'm looking at your face, and I'm trying to read it. What are you thinking?
This is why it's important to watch tape, folks. Does Brett Favre think the Packers drafted Jalen Hurts? I mean, what are we talking about doing this with Jordan Love? All right, Taysom Hill for the New Orleans Saints. Taysom Hill in college ran for 2,800 yards. He averaged 5 yards per carry. He had a season when he had 1,300 yards rushing. Jordan Love averaged 2 yards per carry in his career. He never ran for more than 175 yards in a season. I mean, Utah State, who is a team that's trying to fight and claw to win games any way possible, never ran him. So now the Green Bay Packers should because they drafted him? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. This is so out of touch with what football is right now, and that's why it's important to watch tape. Greeny, if Taysom Hill gets hurt for the Saints, it doesn't drastically impact their future. If Jordan Love gets hurt doing something stupid for the Packers, it drastically impacts their future. I have no idea why someone would say something like this.
Well, let me be clear on what you mean by drastically impacting their future, because Love is their backup quarterback. So if he were to get hurt on some sort of option play, and then Aaron Rodgers were to either A, sprain an ankle, or B, get the coronavirus, Love is the guy they're turning to. Whereas in New Orleans, Taysom Hill isn't that guy. It was Teddy Bridgewater, and now it's Jameis Winston. Just to be clear on what you don't mean the long-term future, where theoretically Jordan Love is their quarterback.
Both of them, Greeny.
Well, you're saying both. If he were to get hurt.
Both situations.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But to me, it's more about the short-term piece of it than the long-term piece of it. The chances that he's going to get hurt and thus not be able to be their quarterback in 3 years seems a little less likely than the notion that he might get hurt and knocked out for the season. We'd have to wait and see. Graziano, is there any reason to believe that the Packers are viewing Love as someone they can get on the field in that way this year?
There is not any reason to believe that. And I think to Dan's point about the long term, Jordan Love is the Packers, not just their backup. He may be their backup, he may not. They have another backup on the roster, Tim Boyle, who was there last year, who they feel like they could go to if Rodgers got hurt. But Love is their first-round pick because they think he can be a future starting quarterback in the NFL. Taysom Hill was an undrafted guy out of BYU that got to the Saints, and they're like, look at all this stuff this guy can do. Let's find ways to get him on the field. That's not the way the Packers look at Jordan Love. They look at him as a developmental quarterback prospect who someday could be their starter, and you treat that guy a lot differently. His focus in year one is going to be learning how to become an NFL quarterback, and I would sincerely doubt that it's in any part of the Packers' plan to put him on the field in some kind of Taysom Hill role that would detract from that or expose him to the potential for, yes, an injury that could trouble him in the short term as well as the long term.
Booger?
Greeny, there's a better chance of you, my friend, participating in a UFC fight than Jordan Love taking on the Taysom Hill role. Like that will never happen. And I know how afraid of contact and anything aggressive you are. So let's just look at this. If you look at Taysom Hill, his mentality, as Dan alluded to, has always been that of a runner. Like that's a mentality. Think about Tim Tebow carrying the football, running the football. Yes. Jordan Love is not that. Jordan Love wants to be a quarterback. Let's look how Taysom Hill is built. He's a thicker guy, 225, 230 pounds. He's kind of built like a running back. You look at Jordan Love, he's kind of built like a quarterback, kind of long, lanky. He's not skinny, but he has that quarterback build. And in the end, I just think Brett Favre is trying to figure out a way to make everything kumbaya in Green Bay. The relationship has been something that's been in question, just like it was when he and Aaron Rodgers were together. And I can understand how his wheels are turning, but you have to actually put it in practicality and look at it on the football field. How can it work? And there's no way that you can put Rodgers and Love on the field. Now, if you were to tell me somehow Love can go out and play receiver based on his athleticism, I would buy that more than I buy him playing a quote-unquote Taysom Hill role. And let's not forget, Taysom Hill plays special teams. He was the personal protector on the punt. He was on kickoff. He was on kickoff return. You telling me Jordan Love is about to do that? I hear you, Brett Favre. I love you, buddy, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so we're all in agreement. This is not likely. Let me play devil's advocate for a minute here, Orlovsky, and that is the notion of having two people on the field that can both pass the ball does strike me as an interesting piece of football's future. And I understand that the second person has to be able to fill, generally speaking, has to be able to fill some other role as well. But is it completely beyond the notion that you would have another guy like, let's just use for this sake Jordan Love, because that's the example that Brett Favre gave you, of a guy lined up behind the quarterback who could throw the football just to put that fear into the defense? Is that something that does not create another wrinkle the defense has to be worried about?
No, because that person, that secondary person, not only needs to be able to throw the ball, but they need to put the threat of running the football in a defense as well. Because what'll happen, Greeny, is if Jordan Love comes into the game and really only used to be a secondary thrower of the football, I mean, this is the NFL. People are smart. Defense are just going to sit there and go, there's no threat for him to be a runner. We'll adjust our defense and understand that the likelihood is there is going to be a second pass on this football play. And so that's why Jalen Hurts is such a potential threat for the Eagles, because he's a capable thrower, but an absolutely dynamic runner. Jordan Love doesn't have that. Again, he ran for 175 yards in college, that as his max. He averaged 2 yards per carry in college football in the Mountain West. So that's why, no, there is not this aspect where we need to put multiple quarterbacks on the field just because one guy can throw. Tailbacks that can throw, then we're into a conversation of some cool stuff because they are the dominant threat as a runner.
But to be clear, Booger McFarland, if the Packers are a good team this season and playing meaningful games throughout and Aaron Rodgers does not get hurt, Jordan Love will take 0 snaps?
Yes, I think not only will Rodgers take all the snaps this year if he's healthy, I think Rodgers is the quarterback next year also. I understand they drafted Jordan Love, but come on, man, it's Aaron Rodgers. As Stephen A. say, he is still a bad man.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.